All right, I'm gonna keep running. So in this video, I'm responding to now like a comment that was left on one of my one of the videos on this channel, where someone asked straight out why am I here? And I was saying that that can be appreciated in different ways, or maybe it can be misunderstood in many ways, just because of the limitation of offering text, like communicating with text. It must always, I think, it should be appreciated that what we have for like a the different texting platforms, like such as even emails. But I think emails are more straightforward, because usually when someone is emailing you, there's like a digital footprint and trail, and usually like people actually have real opportunities. That I just think emails are cooler a lot of times, and I get better energy off emails. But even emails, texting on emails, or like texting on phones, and also texting on like the internet waves, it can be an extrapolation from like some of the military apparatus of the conflict in Southeast Asia. As I understood, was about some of the influences in conception that led to the internet and the internet apparatus and connectivity, was around what was understood of computers at the time of the conflict in Southeast Asia. There's an actual man who's credited with the concept of the internet. I don't have that man's name off the top of my head, but it's appeared at a couple different educational platforms, such as, I think, where was it? I saw that name come about, and that actually be an interesting name worth knowing. But I think that it was attended by a military initiative originally, and then also Chris Hedges has said that there's always been collaboration and an open door between some of your educational institutions, like state schools, but also Ivy League schools, like your some of your East Coast Ivy League schools, but then just schools in general, academia. Some of the research, sometimes people offer their best, but it goes into different purposes, and they don't get the benefit of that, and so they get deprived of their own intelligence and contribution and insight. And I think that's true of educators, because educators are forced to publish and research. Teacher assistants that collaborate with publishing, teaching, and also research, and then also students. And those students don't always have to even be adults. I think sometimes you might have brilliant, exceptional students who are not yet adults, who may participate in like either research or learning or collaboration at venues of higher learning education, venues of higher learning. That might not be entirely publicized, but I would imagine that'd be a reality, that you'd have collaboration with intelligent, exceptional, bright pupils, or even thinkers who are not yet adults. And then also your adult students would do the same of a lot of that. And then some of their contributions can be appropriated or ripped off, or just steered toward like maybe military purposes, like with some of the redundancies or dangers of like what we have for a military industrial complex. But then different commercial interests and maybe technology interests can maybe confiscate or re-engineer or appropriate or take the value of something that was ostensibly fathomed or discovered within the realm of learning, like for the sake of learning as it's presented, like such as higher education, but then becomes something entirely different. And I think that the Matrix, I appreciate that from some of the statements and offerings of Chris Hedges, the journalist and former war correspondent, and also YouTuber and collaborator upon different learning venues. And also he's an educator of men who are incarcerated, maybe men and women, but at least men who are incarcerated. Chris Hedges is in all of that, and he's talked about how a lot of your military apparatus, it actually stems from some of these higher learning venues, however that had been intended or worked out. But our matrix apparatus might be similar to that, and from that standpoint, it can be appreciated as a weapon at all times. And some of like when people are texting each other or even just participating on the internet, you're doing so a little bit furtive and secretively, because you're collaborating and conspiring to create value that is advantage to a different degree. And you're more so, there's always people who are not privy to that, or who may subsidize that, or pay a penalty for that, or be isolate, what's the word? People may be a lot of things we do online. Like sometimes I try to offer content, and the app form is vetting me, that is blocking me from my own page to make sure, are you really you? Are you really potentially coming within the sphere of whatever value can be shared here? So it's somewhat preventing itself from being experienced. So the internet apparatus is very selective and isolating of both advantage and disadvantage, and from that standpoint can be appreciated as a weapon, even as fun and cool and insightful as it is, to where you're always somehow mitigating and steering advantage and disadvantage, and different people benefit from that and enjoy that, and different people are punished by that. And so so you're still more so, it's still more a military initiative and undertaking, or it can be felt that way. Even the cool stuff we do, such as texting or offering comments, it still has that nature to it. You can't get past the nature of something as it was conceived. But so that a person asked on the channel, why am I here? And I was saying that can be appreciated as, what am I? If you just change the terms, we keep the expression, what am I here? Or what am I? And so I'm saying what you may be. For me, now this is just a thought exercise for the sake of content and open-mindedness, because as I engage that person or that comment, that could have been a person who is younger than me, a peer of mine, an elder of mine, someone who is more learned than me, has had less privileges with learning, is more clever, is more articulate, is more charismatic, is stronger, is more dangerous, is more or less dangerous, more lethal, less lethal. I'm not lethal, but less. They could be more or less of anything. And for me to engage that person as though I have half a clue of who would write that, would be arrogant of me, and also poor footing, because we must respect one another at all times. But that all I can appreciate is that person would be different, and it'd be egregious for me to make any assumption about who would say that, and that they were any less or more of me. And so I want to take that respectful tone, but just engage that. It would say, I just superficially, as a thought exercise, I could say that what you may be is, I could appreciate you are a cause, you are an effect of some cause, whether that be your own initiative or your previous existences as ancestors, or the different things, circumstances that have inspired to give us you. You are the effect of those causes, but you are also imminent and part of those causes, and therefore a cause yourself. So you are a cause and effect. I can appreciate that just on the surface. You are, I would imagine, superficial, because we can't be anything else, because we live in a superficial paradigm. That's what we have for reality now. We've been forced into that. You see all these school buses going up and down the road, and you say that must be so cool, because at least as awful as things are, at least there's still hope for the future, because look, young people are still learning. But do they have a choice to that? Are they not being hauled off and trucked off and forced to and obliged to participate in our modern paradigm of overconsumption, maybe overlearning, overeducation, to be implied in this beast of consumption, where soon they'll be beholden to landlords and bills and whatnot? And would there maybe be a better way if they hadn't been forced to undergo education that was outside of their choosing, even at a young age? So as beautiful and redeeming as that is to see these buses, they're yet obliging and inculcating and taking these students off to work. And had those students have a problem in school at the youngest of age, kindergarten, first grade, had they had a problem with another student or with the teacher, would that the tone and the feeling, the energy, I'm not saying they're not still children, and the professionals and educators are not adults respecting children, but the tone and the energy of a reprimand, of discipline that a student could experience, and some of the potential aftermath of consequences that they could experience at a young age, is not any different than having words with a superior or a boss at work, and some of the rigors, and having them have to get up out of bed when they might have been more comfortable to continue to sleep, and then wake up naturally when they don't feel like sleeping anymore, as human beings would in real freedom and nature. Are they not under some of the same obligation and duty and rigors as an adult at that young age? And that'll amount to them being on the footing of having to be beholden to these different landlords, that is usurers, bill collectors, that is usurers, these different things that necessitate finance, where we are having to subsidize our own existence by different things that are maybe not in our best interest or our real strong suit, that we have to do to get by in this paradigm. Are we not forcing that into them with this lifestyle of education?